What you're about to watch is an excellent example of stage one entrepreneurship. In this interview, I talk with Antonio Diaz about how he had a sales job, but because of lacking performance, he was let go, which forced him into a position of finding out what to do. And in this moment, he chose to start his own business. He went out and immediately found success selling home services. Excited to get started, and I'm really excited to hear some of the fundamental things of how you got into what you're doing and teach hopefully the people watching so they can start using some of that for their own stuff. So tell me, Randy, where is it that originally that you're from?
Like originally from where I'm from is Indiana. My parents are actually from Guatemala, so they moved to United States not too long ago. Then just moved around for a while and ended up in Colorado.
Just like throughout education, like upbringing, or how?
Yeah, so I moved to Chicago originally for trade school, so I went for welding. I did that for like a year. I just was just mind-boggling doing the same thing like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I ended up reading a book that just like really ended up just pivoting my life, which was like Rich Dad Poor Dad. And it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I think I'm gonna learn sales. And so I ended up doing door-to-door sales.
Nice, man.
Yeah, I did sales for like 3 years, and then I just ended up doing what I'm doing right now.
How old were you when you first read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I was 18. Um,
18. Yeah.
and then from there, I was
Nice.
just, all right, well, it's a clear roadmap: learn sales, learn leadership. And I was like, all right, cool, let's do it.
So,
Figure
so
it
where
out.
did you do the sales then after having read that, like for the 3 years?
I did sales with a company. They sold like energy products and like some other stuff that was just kind of on the side.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was just a whole bunch of stuff. It was kind of crazy.
Was that in Colorado?
No, this was in Chicago, so I was
This was
doing
in Chicago.
yeah.
Okay.
And they ended up promoting out an office that I went with, and just the office that I was working with, and I didn't end up really making too much money, so we ended up splitting.
Okay. So was that because of performance issues on
Yeah,
their, like from their perspective, or?
yeah, it was. I wasn't really performing all that well, and I invested in a whole bunch of courses just to like improve my sales. I read a whole bunch of books to improve my sales, but like for some reason
No.
nothing was working.
Interesting. Interesting. Looking back, do you have an idea why it wasn't working out back then, or is it still kind of a
Oh
question
yeah,
mark?
I definitely did figure out what it was. It was just like this. It was a mindset where I was just not. I guess I wasn't really confident too much in the product
Mm,
because it was just it was kind of like a weird product that would help people out sometimes, and then sometimes it wouldn't.
okay.
So I was just like, I'm not really too confident in selling this right now.
Yeah, it didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, no, I can't. I don't really think I can do it.
So in short format, what you're doing now is selling home services, correct?
Yeah,
And how initially did you decide and commit to this right after you stopped working with the other company?
it was. Yeah, pretty much. It was like a week. I had a week to just like figure things out because like rent was due. So I applied to a whole bunch of jobs, and I bought some equipment for home servicing because that's still in the back of my mind. I was like, all right, well, if I get a job, then I can do this like as a side hustle and make extra money. And then I went to a job interview. I ended up not going because I ended up walking to like a couple houses. And from those houses, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to knock on them, see what happens. Roll the dice, talk to like five people. And then that fifth person I closed, and I was like, no way. This just worked. I was like, no
And
way. Said yes.
that's so great. That's so great. And even the fact that it's just one in five, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Whoa. Okay.
The sales you were doing before, was that door to door as well?
Yeah, it was all door to door.
Okay, so that's why you had your experience.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So it sounds like it was pretty easy. Like the motivation for you to get started was quite simple. Put money on the table to pay rent, correct?
I gotta pay the bills.
Yeah, exactly. Did you
Yeah.
have any other sort of, like, what were the main fears, like, even though you knew you had to do it, that were in the back of your mind for, what's going to happen when I stop this?
Um, I guess my biggest fear was like, how am I gonna get around? I don't have a car.
Mm,
It's gonna be a little difficult, but
yeah.
I'm just gonna, I ended up closing that person, and I ran back home. I grabbed the like the $40 worth of equipment that I had, and I just cleaned it, and then the rest is history. I bought a bike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
slowly.
man.
Yeah,
No, I mean, that's really awesome to hear because I think that just goes to show for people listening and watching that you don't need even a car, right, to get started. If
yeah,
you're doing a service, for instance, like if you're resourceful, then you can make it work somehow.
yeah. You can figure out
Cool.
how to do it. Like worst case scenario is, you take the bus, and that's not even that bad. That's actually
No,
pretty.
that's nice. So from what I'm hearing, you started this out on your own. You don't have a co-founder or anything for what you're doing, right?
Yeah, just me right now.
Cool. And also for the full delivery of the services, all you as well.
Yeah.
Cool. And once you like, was it the same things that you offered to all your initial customers, or did you like sit down and like kind of figure out ahead of time after the first person, okay, these are the things I'm gonna try and offer specifically? Like, how did that? Was there a process, or was it just like I'm just gonna mention something and hope that that's what they're looking for?
Initially, it was just because the initial thing that I started with was just like window cleaning, and so since I only had like myself and my legs, so I couldn't carry like a ladder, I couldn't do gutter cleaning, I couldn't do a whole bunch of other stuff. So I had to stick to smaller houses, to like one-story houses, so I could only clean those. And then once I started upgrading equipment and like I got a car, I started offering different services like gutter cleaning, and I did Christmas lights for like two people. So
Yeah.
I just started, like, you know, going through. Once I finished cleaning the windows, I would add on, be like, yeah, I noticed that you had a couple things going on like the gutters. Since I'm already here, we can, take off a little bit off and just bundle it together. And they were like, oh yeah, sweet, we can do that.
How
So
many people would you say went for that upsell?
a lot of people, because most people don't want to do that, or some people just can't, and some people just like, well, you're already here, might as well.
Hmm.
It was a pretty easy upsell. It's just mentioning it. If you don't mention it, you're probably not going to get it.
No, probably not. That's very, very true. But I think it's something that might keep people back. Yeah, not like being afraid of asking for more or suggesting more, right?
Yeah, and initially I was a little bit.
But then what convinced you to just do it?
I was like, because I asked a lady if she wanted to get her interior windows cleaned, and she was like, "Yeah, what? Like, how much?" I was like, $200. She was like, "Yeah, cool, let's do it." I was like, "Oh," just said, "Yeah, okay." So that just broke a whole bunch of beliefs in my mind that I was like, "Oh, okay, well then it's not that hard
No, yeah.
for it."
Yeah, the breaking of beliefs is for one, an ongoing process, right? Because we keep having new beliefs, which then need to be broken. But you have those experiences, and you're like, oh, I now I see,
Yeah.
and that's really cool. Was pricing something that came naturally to you because of your previous experience, or was that like I'm just testing the waters for every client that I visit?
Uh, Pricing was pretty simple. It was just like counting up how many windows they had, and then pricing based off of that, and just like minimum pricing jobs. Which in the beginning I just took whatever. I was like, I didn't really care.
Yeah.
something.
But then has it changed since then?
Yeah, it definitely has. I've moved on to like bigger houses where you can charge more because they have more windows and just they require more services.
Okay. So, you say quantity and quality increase, so I'll increase the price sufficiently as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. And obviously, you mentioned the approach or the client acquisition strategy being door-to-door sales, and the fact that you just had to ask five people for the first sale.
Hmm.
Was it the same for getting like client number two? Like, or how did the progression go from where you started to where you are now?
No, it was actually the second client was actually the hardest for some reason. I don't know if it was like beginner's luck or whatever, but the second one was it took quite a bit of doors, and then I realized that I'm just not in the right neighborhood. So demographic really mattered, and then I ended up moving to a different neighborhood, and it just I was like, oh, this is back to back. I started mentioning other people's names, and they were like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and do it.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So, one, do you think, do you know what was the reason why, looking back, the first neighborhood was a bad place?
Yeah, it ended up just not being like the right neighborhood for the services that I'm doing because window cleaning, I've been told, and also just like my research that it's considered like a luxury service, just because like not a lot of people get their windows cleaned professionally, but people do it, and higher income neighborhoods tend to do it more often.
So moving to a neighborhood where the perception was that this is normal and this is what we people are willing to invest in.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? Yeah. And I think that kind of leads into then one, the fact that it's normal is probably why word of mouth and referrals were so powerful as well.
yeah,
Like it probably would have been super difficult to get that in a place where like nobody is doing it, right?
yeah. It definitely was. Plus, if no one's really doing it, they don't really see the value in it, or it was my fault because I didn't provide enough value. So
Mm.
in the smaller neighborhoods, people were willing to pay like $100 for it. I'm just like, yeah, it's not really worth it since it's gonna take this long and this is what I'm doing. I'll try to like,
So the clients you have now, do you service them on a monthly basis or is it like one time or how does that work?
I'm working on creating it more of a subscription based, so we can do it like 4 times a month or 3 times. I just got to figure out how to do all that.
And how many people are you working with at the moment?
So currently, I would say like 60 people so far.
Cool. All in the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I mean they're all in
Or
neighborhoods now.
yeah, Jason. Okay. And that's bringing you in the what, about 4 to 5 grand?
Yeah,
Cool, man. Congrats. I mean, that must feel awesome to have reached that point.
yeah, it's definitely a crazy feeling. It's a
How
crazy.
how long did it take you to go from initial sale to 1 grand?
So 1 grand. I'd probably say like 2 weeks, two three
2 weeks.
weeks. Yeah, to figure out like a good system of like what'll setting up appointments for the next day or how to get my equipment, buying more equipment that's just makes the job easier.
Mm. And then how long from that point until where you are now?
Probably took me like 2 months.
Okay. So, once you had that initial success, it was more about systemizing things or more outreach. Obviously, you had to get more people like to sell more,
Mhm.
but were there like other process things that you feel like you worked more on, or did you just do acquisition?
It was more of the process because there was houses that were just taking way too long, and so just like simplifying it and also more sales and upselling people were were definitely key in that 4 or 5 grand.
Yeah. So now I imagine you've probably reached a spot where you can do more result based. I mean, obviously it was result based before, but you do make it a more overall package, right, for what you deliver
Yeah,
instead of like doing all the individual things, I would imagine.
yeah. Now it's just hiring somebody for them to start cleaning, and so I just sell.
Have you like, is the plan for you to continue doing like door to door or to pursue some other kind of acquisition channel?
Yeah, I'm gonna start, or actually, I already started the like Facebook marketing. But that's just like a whole another
Yeah.
game that I have to figure out.
If you were doing, I think this is like quite interesting. If you were doing like all the sales and you were just doing door to door, how many doors do you think you would be able to knock on every day?
Just about like maybe 200, 200 to like 250
Okay, wow, that's a lot.
knocking on doors. Yeah.
And if you had a person doing the delivery, would that like how much if you were to do that full time every day, how much revenue do you think you would be able to generate from that?
I'll probably reach like 10K pretty easily.
Okay,
That'd be very quick.
cool. And
And
so I'm not involved in this industry at all. What I've heard is someone say that it's very easy. Maybe that's why you experience, the first fifth client was the one who said yes.
mm,
This is a service which in which there's quite high demand. Like a
yeah,
lot of people want this service. If you go, of course, the right places, right, where people can afford it. But it's maybe more difficult to hire people or like find people who are a good fit to deliver the service. Is that something you've done any kind of research on or work with so far?
no, not so far. So yeah, that's just the whole. There's a whole bunch of like new learning things that I have to, just like Facebook, how to hire people, how to look for the right person, and all this other stuff as well. Um,
Yeah.
so that's really
That's
exciting.
very cool. Yeah. I
That's
mean, it sounds exciting. That's, the whole, it's so funny, right? The whole uncertainty part is both the good and the bad thing.
yeah,
It's like the bad thing because you don't know what's going to happen. That's terrifying. But it's also incredibly exciting because anything can happen as well, right?
yeah,
For
super exciting.
you, for you growing up and getting into this world of business, did you have sort of any visions for what you wanted to do long term or where you saw yourself in the future?
Now, ever since I was a kid, I I would have always seeing my parents like work their regular jobs, and I started working at a very early age too. I did like landscaping for quite a while. I think by the time I was 18, I already had like 7 years of experience of work. So I was like, yeah, I don't really think a 9 to 5 is really for me. But I have no other skills and I don't know how to sell anything. But I know I want to do something that doesn't require me having a job. But I don't
Mm.
know how or what.
Yeah, you mentioned in your sales job that you took a bunch of courses and like read a bunch of books.
Mm.
What were some of those courses and books and what did they help you learn or realize or practice?
Um, there was actually quite a bit of books. One that really stood out was like the Samurai Salesman, where it was just like the integrity behind the sale, and like knowing that this is like knowing your stuff pretty much. And that's where I kind of became like really conflicted with what I was selling, because I was like, yeah, this is not really helping that many people out.
Okay, so knowing what you're selling, not in terms of just having the right information, but like believing in it, like the conviction.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then I took a sales course from Jeremy. I'm not sure if you know, I forgot what his last name was, but his name was like Jeremy, I forgot what his last name was, but he's like a really huge like salesperson.
Jeremy Minor?
Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sales course from him, and he talked about tonality.
Yeah.
And I started recording myself when I was at the doors, and I realized that my voice was like I would ask questions a lot. I was like, "Is that okay?" Or it's like, this is the whole thing with the pitch, where I was just like raising my voice at the end,
Where
which
you
was
shouldn't be, or
where I shouldn't be, and it would come
okay.
up with a question. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I started realizing that, and I was like, "Oh, okay, well, don't do that."
Yeah. But this was still not enough for you to do, like, at the point where you were doing this, it didn't help with the job, right?
Yeah, it didn't help. Yeah, I was just going through a whole bunch of other stuff too. Where I was just like, I was kind of doubting it for a while too. I was like, I'm taking all these courses, I'm investing a lot, but I'm just not really seeing anything. So
Mm.
it's like, is this the best course that I could take right now, or like
Is
I'm
it
just
something you is that something you've then continued to work on afterwards? Like the same things that you were doing before?
yeah, I would continue working on them, and yeah, I'd continue working on them and just seeing different things. And like the sales team would also like come out and help me with it too. But for some reason, it just wasn't
Yeah.
clicking.
No. I mean, you live and you learn, right? You either
Yes.
find out that you're meant to be somewhere or you're not meant to be somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty similar in that way. Okay, so you knew you weren't meant to be in an office job from 9 to 5, and that you wanted to go off and do something, and now you're doing it. Do you have some kind of specific vision for where you want to take this business? Like, do you have a certain future in mind, or is it more like monetarily focused?
I have, oh, like in the beginning, it was very like monetary, like I just wanted to get money.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it recently for a while now. I was like, where do I want to take this? And I want to expand to different states and just grow the different kinds of services that I have as well. Also, like taking it back to people who have like 9 to 5s. I know I've seen my parents like work really, really hard in their job and not really go anywhere. So I want to create something where, you know, it's the next guy up. So whoever's working like the hardest gets like promoted, gets their own office, gets to run their own things. But if you don't want that, that's also cool. You can continue, doing what you're doing. That's fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, of course.
yeah. And just expanding to different states, franchising with like the hard workers, the people that want it, and yeah, just growing it.
Cool, man. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Literally, why not? I mean,
there's no reason why not to do it. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. Do you have like a certain point that you financially want to reach where you are like, okay, now I can do this just for the fun of it? Or are you just like, I'm just gonna continue to grow and then maybe at some point I'll figure out that this is no longer the main focus?
yeah, there is a point. Or could you rephrase the first part of the question?
So I'm thinking because a lot of people will and probably people who will be watching this will be thinking, yeah, if I start a business, I'm obviously going to do it for the money, right? And that's, I would hope so as well, besides the mission part. But for a lot of people, it's about financial independence, financial freedom, success, whatever you want to name it. But I would guess that a lot of those people don't put a specific like number on when they feel like they've made it to either the independence or the freedom, right? Is that something you've thought about?
Like the specific number that it would take for me.
Yeah,
Like, all right, I'm chilling.
yeah,
Yeah. I have, but also I talked to one of my good friends, and he broke another belief that I had was, he was talking about like we're just talking about like different perspectives of money, and that's when I realized that a million is probably not where I want to sit at, because it's like one mil is kind of one when you can have like 10 of them, 10 or 20 or 40. You know, I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
not well. So I mean, either way, I just want to grow it. I want to grow it as big as possible. I just think
Yeah.
this is fun. I love it. I enjoy
Cool.
it. The struggles, the wins, the losses, everything's it's just it's fun. So
It is fun. Like building something and getting results from it is absolutely incredible, and having something that you're working towards, right?
yeah,
I think obviously though, like it's not just the good sides. It's not just fun. Like the stuff you have to do, like the doors you have to knock on, the things you have to develop, or all the uncertainty you have to go through is not fun and is not very glamorous. And it often can be made that way on social media, right?
yeah, yeah.
What would you say mentally were some of the things that you've had to battle the most with?
I would guess initially it was my confidence in what I was doing, and then once I started getting like, reviews sent to me, people were telling me that I was doing a good job. They were happy seeing their like exterior windows look great. That they haven't seen their windows look this clean since the day they moved in. I'm like, well, that actually started building up like the conviction in what I was doing. And, I'd get that confidence at the door, be like, yeah, I just being able to tell them that I did something great. And if they said no, then I was like, all right, cool, your loss. Cool.
Well, yeah, and hopefully, I mean, you got some kind of feedback for a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. Like getting that feedback saying like people telling me that I'm doing great, and just like the people that I've been able to help, it's just like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing something good. I'm helping
yeah.
people. Yeah. So
From your experience so far, if you were to give like the three most valuable pieces of advice for someone who's listening to this is saying, I want to start a business today. I might have an idea of what I want to do, but I'm not necessarily sure what should the first steps be. Like if you were to give like three top and most important lessons, what should they focus on?
three most important lessons. So the first one is picking what picking what you want to do. If you have like it doesn't have to be like the funnest thing ever. Just starting, because the more you delay it, it'll be like a day and then it turns into 2 months. So just start, pick that one thing. If it doesn't work out, then you know you got experience from it. That's the best part. Um, Two would be learning as much as possible, as fast as possible. So fail quick and get up and do it again, but don't do the same mistake. Because otherwise, if you do the same mistake, then you're you're
Then you
not
didn't learn,
yeah
right?
you didn't learn. Life repeats its lessons over and over again until you learn.
Yeah.
And the third one is know that you're like that. Just because you came up with the idea that you want to run a business, a lot of people in this world don't ever think of like I can run my own thing, and just believe that you're you're capable of more than you're actually than you think. It's like
Mm,
the human mind and body are just I have no idea what my limit is right now. I don't, the it's just yeah, I have no idea what I'm possible or capable of right now, because there's just so much that I could do, but I just need to break these beliefs that I have and then just continue. So learn, trial and error, and then just learn, or just know that. you're capable of doing way more than you can.
Cool, man. Awesome. I totally agree for that matter. And my hope is also like doing these interviews that, once I have like 10 or 20 videos of people saying the exact same thing, the
Yeah.
viewers will be like, okay, I guess these are the things I need to do, right?
I was watching one of your review that you sent me, and I was like, oh, this person's saying the exact same thing that all the other books that I've read are saying, and I was like, well,
Yeah,
I guess I might be on the right path.
exactly, right? There's both confirmation for you doing it, but also like hopefully it's gonna help with conviction for people who are considering to do it.
Yeah,
Like because I don't know, are you a big Hormozy follower?
yeah, I like watching like every day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, I think most entrepreneurs do, but
Yeah,
I mean, I might catch someone who doesn't. And I really like what he's saying about people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught, right? And that's kind of been the idea behind doing these interviews. Is that most people like you who's watching this, you know what you need to do to get started. People are just afraid to try, and they have these big expectations for what it should be like.
mhm.
And so my hope is that by listening to people over and over and over say, like, choose what you want to do, fail often, and then know that you can do so much more than you think you can do, just like you say, right?
Yeah,
It will work out at some point, but it's like it's not on the 1 month basis, it's on the 10-year basis.
yeah. So like consistency. The more you do it, like it's inevitable.
Yeah. And and of course that it kind of sucks if you're getting into it and you're like, is it really worth it then? Like do I really want to?
Yeah,
But then like on the other hand, it's like it's actually like it's close to guaranteed if you're willing to put in what it takes. And what it takes is probably a lot more than you initially think because you have no reference point for, what it takes actually.
yeah,
But if you just decide to get started and learn and fail and move on for as long as it takes, or for the 5 or the 10 years, like at some point you will get some kind of result. Like it doesn't make sense that that wouldn't happen, right?
yeah. It's really
Are
true.
you still an avid reader? You mentioned reading like some books previously.
Yeah, I still read a lot.
Yeah. What kind of is it still like business self-improvement books, or what kind of books do you prefer?
It's just business, self improvement, a lot of just business marketing. Now that I'm
Mhm.
getting in that space right now.
If you were to give like three recommendations from three different like types of books, so like let's say one business book, you've already mentioned the Samurai Salesman, right? But
Mhm.
if you were to give like one self-improvement, one sales, and then either one marketing or something else, which books have you really liked so far?
So far, I really liked Ray Dalio, Principles by Ray
Principles, yeah.
Dalio. It's a really great book. Um, it's just like radically like it tells you like the truth of what things are.
In what
Um,
way?
it like if you're not radically open minded to change, then you're gonna stay the same, and that's just like that's just a fact. If you're it tells you how to like work with others and how to get the best possible solution if you have no idea what to do, and how to reference with other people that are doing better than you, or somebody that's like equally like on your level, how to like have a conversation with people like that and figure out what the best possible solution is, even if you're wrong, and accepting that you can be wrong.
Okay.
um I think it was called like Power of Habits, but it's been a while since I've read that book, by Charles Dungy. I'm pretty sure that's his last name. And let me see, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm.
It's a classic. I feel like everybody's read that.
Carnegie, right?
Yeah,
Cool, cool. Awesome. I think yeah, I still like reading a lot, but I
I think for a long time I was of the belief that, reading more books will automatically help you get further.
Yeah.
And so I was probably putting more effort into reading than I were in doing certain action inputs that would have been more helpful. So now I'm kind of dialing it back a little bit, focusing more on doing the few key important things, and then doing whatever fun reading I feel like I can do on the side. Have you heard of Never Split the Difference?
No, I think, was it from? No, I haven't. No.
It's by Chris Voss, who used to be an FBI hostage negotiator,
Mhm.
and it's a book on negotiation, but it's really a book on communication, actually.
Mhm.
So one, it has I think it's great. I've read it for I just recently finished the third time. But it's really powerful in terms of understanding the dynamics of how do you make someone feel heard and understood, and how does that play into them liking you more and wanting to do business with you and you getting the outcome you want, but also getting an outcome that they want. Like, how can you negotiate with someone and not just break it in the middle, like split the difference? That's the point of the name, right? How do you just not, break down the middle, give 50-50, but get all the way to what you want and still find a solution that the other person feels like they want as well?
Mm.
And so, I mean, I just thought that I would throw that out there because of what you're working with. I really think it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to my list right now, real quick. Any recommendations? I love. Chris
Yeah, I
Brown.
mean, I have a long list of books, so more than happy to send that over, and then you can read the reviews if you want to. But I
Yes, I've heard of
I
Chris Voss.
think, yeah, exactly. I think it can kind of lead to analysis paralysis if you're just bombarded with recommendations all the time. So
Yeah.
I try not to just sling recommendations out to left and right, but kind of look at where people at and what would actually be beneficial for them and what they're doing. Um, cool. Do you feel like there's something significant about the things you've been through, what you're working on, or where you want to go in the future that we haven't already touched upon?
Significant. Significant in what way?
Significant as in, like, it played a major role in making it work, or not quitting, or being more efficient or productive, or, producing some kind of result or moving you forward.
I'll say every once in a while, I'll take a look back of where I originally started in my original situation. I was like, wow, like I'm pretty far from there. So it's just always taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture too. Because a lot of times I can just zone in on like what's going on right now and what's happened. So let's just zoom it out and be like, oh, okay, well, this is cool, but I can do better. So just zooming out.
Does that does that help you reframe, like when you're dealing with something difficult? Does it help you reframe, like, the difficultyness of that thing, like put it into perspective of, okay, maybe it isn't that big of a deal, or is it more like it's gonna be all right? It's a gratitude point. Like, how do you see it?
A little bit of both. If I'm going through like something really tough in the moment, I'm like, well, it's not that bad in the whole grand scheme of things. A year from now, I'm gonna be laughing at this situation. It's gonna be funny, and it'll just help me like think about a positive solution or just like a solution in the moment as well. And I'll just be like, all right, well, gotta get through it. No other
Nothing
way.
to it but to do it, right?
Yeah, gotta get through it.
Yeah. Um, I agree with you, and I think if you get to that point of view, like, you can deal with most things, right? Because you kind of remove the whole is something good, is something bad, and things just are. and so you just deal with whatever's in front of you.
Yeah. Just,
Cool, man.
yeah. Sometimes
Awesome. No, go ahead.
yeah, because I was gonna say sometimes you have no control over what just happened. So it's just like, all right, well, couldn't really do anything about that, but I can control what I can do. So I'm not
Exactly.
gonna about it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's the absolute minority of things that we can control. Like,
Mm.
it's the tiniest of things that we can actually control. And so the fact that we think we should be, of course, it's good to be accountable and responsible for everything that happens to you and what you do. But trying to have expectations for yourself of like what happens outside and what do other people do is crazy. And I think, you force a lot of downfall on yourself for doing that.
Yeah, and that's a big lesson that I learned doing door to door. Just because you might run into somebody that's just not having a good day. That's,
Mm,
that's so possible, and that is absolutely out of my control. But I can control how I respond to that.
yeah, that's a
So,
great point. Actually, it makes me think of, and that's something we've not touched upon. How big is follow-ups, like physical follow-ups in like door-to-door sales? How, like, is it either you get them or you don't get them? Are there people you go back to, or how is that then?
follow-ups definitely help if sometimes people just don't have time in the moment. Like they got a baby's crying, and they need to go tend to that. And I'm like, yeah, no, I can come
Mm,
back. Like I can come back later. I understand.
yeah.
So follow-ups are very important. Sometimes people just don't answer. So, but that happens in every single follow-up. So I would always go for it just because it's like out of say 10 follow-ups, you'll probably get like two, three.
Okay, that's pretty good. For people who want to do sales and want to get into sales, you've mentioned buying courses and reading books. I think that's a great recommendation. What, besides that, is it your perception that you just kind of start and then do and then learn? Or do you think this is going to turn into a really bad question? Like what in your words, what would be the best way to start practicing or learning about sales?
Um, Definitely start. Um, Record your interactions with people, because if you don't know what you just said and you just try to like remember what you said, something's gonna be changed in your mind. So if you have like a video or like just a voice recording of how it went, and then you can see how the conversation went, or I could have said something different here, and just know how far the process you've just taken them. And if you continue losing them at this one point, and then you can try saying different things, and you record yourself the next time and just like, oh, this actually worked, and then you continue and you continue doing that. So just seeing where you're having troubles, and in the
Mm,
beginning obviously you're not going to be that great, but you know as long as you can pinpoint where that error is, then the better you are.
how quickly do you think someone could, like with no experience, get into something like door-to-door sales and get their first sale in an industry like you've been in?
Possibly within a week, probably like even first day, because it's
With
just a
like,
yeah, it's just a conversation. That's what I started
mm,
appreciating it as. It's just I'm just having a conversation with somebody, and
cool.
that's it.
Yeah. But obviously, I imagine like that's with focused, intentional, and deliberate effort, right? That's not just thinking, oh, I'm gonna get this script and then,
Yeah, for sure.
I
Because
mean,
I say like not interested, and you're like, oh, well, what do I say now?
yeah,
Yeah. So
cool.
it's
No,
just
I just wanted to throw that out there for someone who's like, oh, I just need a piece of paper and then I'll be good. Like, no, you need to understand what objections are and what like what's the psychological mechanism behind someone like making an objection is because they don't like relate or feel safe or like something like that. So how can you conversate, right?
yeah, how to have a conversation, how to handle those like just not right now kind of situations.
Cool. Thanks. It's
Yeah, of
been
course.
an absolute pleasure learning more about what you're doing. And I mean, it sounds like you'll be at the 10K in no time with the trajectory that you're on. And of course, I wish you the absolute best.
Appreciate it.
I really think that this has been some super tactical stuff. And I really like that this has been like so closely focused on like ground zero to ground one to like, first customer, 1,000, the 5 grand. Because I think people benefit so much from hearing that this is just what it is. Like there's no magic sauce. There's no nothing else. Like this is just the few things you need to do, and then you can actually get there relatively quickly if you're doing it intentionally and deliberate. And if you just want to make it work, like you said.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I highly appreciate it, and thank you so much for your time, Randy.
Yeah, no, I
If
appreciate it.
people want to check out what you're doing in Colorado, where can they find you?
Just my Instagram page. I post a lot. Recently, I started doing a lot of just like documenting what I've been doing for other people as well. So I can really relate to this as well. So my Instagram is Diaz.Antonio101.
Cool, man.
There you go.
If you have a house and you don't want to clean it yourself, you don't want the windows, all of that to look dirty, go watch, okay? Go check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for letting me, chat on the platform. So